Well, hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Sharon Vornholt, and I'm so glad you're tuning in today. My guest today is Denver investor Jill Speth, who also happens to be a registered nurse. Jill started investing in Colorado Springs in 2009, where she focused on wholesaling and rehabs. She also managed to build a small portfolio of rental homes while she was there. In 2012, she moved to Littleton, Colorado with her family. Fast forward to 2016, she got a broker license, and then she focused on selling her rental portfolio back in Colorado Springs. So she's got a pretty interesting story here. Jill has been a full-time investor since 2018, and she continues to flip houses in the Southwest Denver metro area. Welcome to the show, Jill.
Thanks, Sharon. I'm glad to be here.
So I just barely touched on your story. So I'm going to have you tell everyone a little bit about how you got started and a little bit about your journey of how you got from there all the way over here.
Well, like most people, I think I've been interested in real estate for as long as I can remember. I think I was introduced to creative real estate investing through Carlton Sheets. I'm sure most people are familiar with No Money Down. I really started learning a lot though after nursing school, knowing that that's not really what I wanted to do forever. So I came across a website by Steve Cook. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I actually spent, hours and hours learning message boards, having conversations with other people, but I never actually did a deal until 2008 when we moved from Indiana to Colorado. Kind of got more familiar with that market, and then obviously the crash happened. There was a lot of opportunity. There were a lot of people scared, but there was a lot of opportunity. So happened to be out driving for dollars one day, came across a for sale by owner, called him up, and ended up getting the house under contract. From there, actually through my marketing, I found Michael Jake in Colorado Springs, who he does it's a real estate club meetup, kind of like the association meetings, and he does coaching programs. So a lot of the investors that came to look at the house asked if I was in his group. Of course, I wasn't. So I ended up wholesaling that house, made about $5,000, and then immediately started going to Michael Jake's meetups that were once a month. From there, got in touch with a lot of investors, did a partnership on a flip, and took that money, joined Michael Jake's coaching program from there, and it just, everything got the ball rolling. Once I joined his coaching program and had all those resources in place that he provided, that made things take off.
It's a huge topic, finding your tribe. So whether that's getting in your RIA, and people go, well, I already know how to buy a house, but there are so many resources in your local RIAs for real estate investment clubs and mentors. You go so much faster with a mentor, don't you agree?
I absolutely agree. I couldn't have gained the ground that I gained without that group. It was vital.
Yeah. 2008, 2009 was the best of times and the worst of times. So I closed one business and started investing full time then. And then that's when I became an accidental wholesaler, 2008, because nobody could get the retail buyers couldn't get a loan. But I was lucky because I had been investing for 10 years and I could just literally call up someone that was, I had some buyers that had W-2 jobs and still they could withstand holding the houses longer. So, but I like to tell people the whole world was on sale. It was just a phenomenal time for opportunity.
Yeah, it really was. Yep.
So, how has it changed how you found your houses back then as to how you find them now?
It's changed in the degree that I have more money than time now. So you put more out there in marketing and things like that. Back then I did a lot of driving for dollars. The footwork, the things that it took some time, but it actually helps you learn the market better in my but so it's changed in that regard, but I still got a lot of deals on the MLS, a lot of short sales from the MLS. So I guess the type of deals back then, I guess they're different now. You kind of watch the MLS for more signs of motivation. Back then, it was just a flood of everyone motivated. But I think a lot of the stuff now is more marketing related versus, you know, boots on the ground kind of stuff, like walking the neighborhoods or driving and things like that.
Yeah. So I always tell people, start where you are. And that's what you did. It's what I did. And you've either got to spend your time or your money or a combination of both when it comes to marketing. And for most people in the beginning, they've got more time than they do money. So everybody starts that way. Now let's talk about marketing today. So what types of marketing do you do?
So right now, the majority of my deals have come from the MLS so far. We've, over the last 8 months or so, have started direct mail campaigns targeting probates, pre-foreclosures, although right now we don't really have a lot of those. Expired listings that have been, you know, expired maybe 6 months back, not current expired listings.
Okay.
Things like that. A lot of stuff. I guess there's Facebook marketing, my website. Facebook, not so much right now, though. They made some changes that haven't had a chance to sit down and figure that out. But we were doing pretty good with Facebook, quite a bit of leads there. But yeah, so right now the direct mail is, and the MLS is the main.
Yeah, so which brings up another point. I know you've got a broker's license, you're a real estate license. Would you encourage people to get a license, or does it matter in your book?
You know, there are ways to do things without a real estate license. For me, it made sense to get my license because we were selling the rental property. And I like having that direct access and ability to potentially have other business ventures, so I can do listings and things like that if I want to. But, you know, if you don't have a license, you can still go look at listed properties, like through Redfin agents. You can just call, I want to see this house, and they'll let you in. You can get comps online now. So I really don't think it necessarily matters. For me, it's more convenient, and I like having that access to the information without having to go through somebody else to get.
Right. I think it does make it easier, especially if you're working the MLS a lot.
Yeah. Plus, I do have some connections with realtors in my broker's office that I've gotten a couple of deals from. You know, houses that just aren't appropriate for the MLS, or situations that aren't appropriate. So I've gotten some deals that way. I mean, that in and of itself makes it worth it for me to have license. But I would recommend it, honestly. I guess when it comes down to it, it doesn't impact your business in a negative way. It can only help, and you can do it without it or with it. But for me, I think it's better to have it.
Well, I think a lot's changed in the past 6 or 8 years. It used to be a fine line to walk if you were an agent and an investor. And today it doesn't seem to really be much of an issue, so long as you make the proper disclosures and do things properly. But I remember a time when it was really a big deal. If you were going to market, you know, you had to look up the legalities. Can your name be on the letter if you're an agent, and not disclose you're an agent? Because some people don't work with an agent because they don't want to work with an agent. So if you're an investor and then you say, oh, by the way, I'm an agent, it's like, okay, they'll just toss you in the garbage.
Yeah, that hasn't been my experience so far. I haven't, you know, I've gone on quite a few appointments, but overall, in the big scheme of things, it's not been a
problem.
Yeah, but nobody has cared. It's just kind of an aside. Oh, by the way, I'm licensed. I'm required to disclose that. I just want to let you know. But so far, nobody cares. I just make sure to let them know I'm here to buy your house. I'm not interested in putting it in the MLS. I'm a buyer. So I think that part definitely makes it less worrisome to the seller.
I think it's all about showing up with the right words right from the beginning. As long as you tell them that, and then you just move forward with it, don't dwell on it, I think it's fine. So when it comes to direct mail now, who are you mailing to?
So we're targeting mostly probates right now. Like I said, we do a little bit of pre-foreclosures, but we just don't have a lot of now. We will at some point. So it's good that we go ahead and continue, even though there's not a lot of chance of getting one. But so and the expired listing, that's our main focus right now. Mostly though the probates.
So you go back 6 months. That's interesting. So you're not really worried about the ones that have just expired. Do you want them to get in a little bit of pain?
Right. And they get so much mail, the expired listings from real estate agents that want to list their house, that for I Buy Houses marketing is not going to get through.
Right.
I mean, they're getting bombarded with phone calls, with texts, people coming to their house, knocking on the door.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I wait it out a little bit and then contact them when everybody else is kind of fallen off.
Well, I think that's really smart. I mean, because if by that time they've either relisted it or they've given up, or maybe they're ready for a new option after 6 months.
Right. Yeah. They might be willing to consider either a price reduction or another option, maybe something more on the creative side to be able to buy it.
Do you ever offer them at that point? Let's say that if you go in as a buyer, if you cannot come to an agreement on price, do you ever offer to list the house in that scenario?
I do not. I started looking into that, and I think you made a really good point. The ethics of it to me is a little bit sketchy.
Yeah.
If I'm going to offer to list somebody's house, I just straight up market to them that way.
For listing.
Yeah. I think if I go in as a real estate agent, I could maybe offer to buy the house if they didn't want to list it. Want to go as the other way. If I go in as an investor,
yes,
it just seems like you could be lying on your comps or just to try to get them to sell at a price or something like that. It just doesn't seem fair.
It's always been a little sketchy for the sellers in that situation, in their minds.
Right. And you could, somebody could potentially try to take advantage of them in that way, So I think it's best, just if you're going to offer to list the house, just stick with that road. If you want to buy the house, stick with that road.
Okay.
Rather than trying to switch it up in the middle. So I actually will go through my leads and I, kind of categorize them separately. So some I will put in my marketing list just as a realtor, and then some as investments that I would be interested in buying.
Okay, that's smart to do it that way. If you know for sure that they're too new or something, there are lots of scenarios where you just know they simply cannot take a low ball offer.
Right, so and most of the time, there's only certain areas that I'll buy into. So, but I'll buy a house anywhere in the area.
Right. So that's a smart way to do it. So, do you have once you found a house? Let's just say that once you found a house, then you have to obviously buy the house. If you're a rehabber, rehabbing and wholesaling are your two main strategies today, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you don't wholesale it, then you're going to need to close on it. So where do you find your money?
So I use a lender that's not really hard money, but they're not really private money, in the middle pricing wise. So it's Merchants Mortgage is who I use locally here. They can close as quick as cash. You can, in borrowing the purchase and the repairs, you can kind of conserve some of your capital to maybe buy another house if you were to come across it. So generally all of my financing is done through them right now.
Okay. So you can borrow the purchase and the rehab money?
Yep. They fund 90%. So I'm bringing 10%.
Okay. That's a pretty sweet deal. So especially since you're buying at a discount and then your repairs. So yeah, that's not bad at all, because theoretically, if you had a little bit of money, you could even have a nice big credit card that you
Yeah.
would temporarily put your materials on, and then as soon as it was sold, you could pay that off, or a line of credit at the Home Depot or Lowe's or something. There are lots of options, and oftentimes in your RIA, you'll be able to get contractors deals and lines and things like that at those stores.
Yeah, but we actually do. We have a line of credit with Home Depot. Well, it's a credit card with Home Depot. They actually frequently offer, the 0% interest for 24 months. So
Wow.
you're not even paying interest on that money.
Anything at all. Yeah. So why would you use your money? You really shouldn't. You should always try to find a way not to use your own money if you can.
Right, and to extend your capital as much as possible. I know on the payment side in Denver, using them, the payments, typical, they're interest only paid, but they're pretty high. Yeah. So it's always good to conserve your cash, just in case. I always figure about 4 months on the market for my flips, but anything can happen. The market can change, so. Always good to conserve your capital so that you can make those payments and things like that.
Yeah. Now, have you ever considered, or maybe you've already done this, getting a line of credit with a bank? Once you can show a successful rehab history, you can very often get a signature line of credit.
Yeah, I've actually been this past week working with the bank where my business accounts are, on up it's a small line of credit to start, but prove yourself and
yes,
bigger over time. So.
Yeah, it's great for emergency cash, like if your house doesn't sell or whatever, but you need to do that when things are going well, not when things are going badly.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot harder to get money when you don't have any money at all.
Yeah, they always say we don't want to loan you money if you need money.
Right.
So people always want to know about repairs. How did you learn to estimate repairs? I learned the old-fashioned way. I spent a whole lot of time in Home Depot and calling up furnace people, and in my RIA group, this was a thing that was hugely valuable for my RIA group. In the beginning, I could call up a plumber. How much is a water heater? Well, how big? Well, here's how big the house is. You start with whatever knowledge you have, but how did you start?
The same way. A lot of time in Home Depot, just looking at what materials cost. First house, as my husband and I bought, was actually a fixer-upper. Before we even were too much into the investing side of it. So I was able to get some ballpark numbers just with that, knowing, we actually did need to replace the furnace. We paid that out of, but we knew the prices of a lot of those things. But in the beginning, that's exactly what it was. It's like a lot of research online, asking people, calling people, and a lot of time in Home Depot. I really refer to Home Depot as like my second office.
I know, because once you learn, you can figure out like a running foot of cabinets is going to cost me about this much for a rental grade house or for an upgrade. It gives you a starting point. It doesn't give you the exact numbers. And now you can, even with our friend Google, you can go online and say, how much is a running foot of gutters in Denver? And you can get a like a really close price, and maybe you can get it done more cost efficiently if you have contractors you use all the time. But it is so much easier now than it was 20 years ago. But yes, I spent a lot of time in Home Depot, and people that I know that do this a lot, they've got even people that maybe do nicer retail houses. They've got 5 vanities they use, and they've got, their paint colors. They've got maybe 3 paint colors or whatever they use, but they've got it all in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's what I do mine.
Yeah, or whatever. So there are many ways, but there's also a free tool. I'll post in the show notes. I don't know if you've ever used it, but it's called Rehab Valuator.
No, I'm not familiar.
So there's there's a free version. There's also an inexpensive paid version. This doesn't cost a lot, but you can put all your numbers in there. Like you could plug in something like, this is how much carpet costs or hardwood flooring costs. And then when you plug in your house and you put the square footage in there, it'll say, you know, like how much of it's hardwood. It'll give you spit out all the numbers. Now, I know people that have I don't know a lot about the paid version, but I know it'll actually spit out all the repair list, and like in a really nice fancy report that you can walk in a bank with and say, hey, I want to get a loan. Yeah. So it's, but they have a rental, it's rehabvaluator.com and rentalvaluator.com. But it's kind of a shortcut thing that you can use for people that don't know. It helps you keep your numbers together, and it gives you some credibility when you walk into a bank and say, I'm looking for money. Here's this nice fancy report about what I think it's going to cost me.
Yeah. You know, Home Depot as well, a lot of the stuff they offer installation on, while I don't really use their services because they take a long time, but they will tell you what, you know, the labor is for, like, if they're going to come in and install, you know, whether 15 to 18 bucks a square foot or something like that. So you can kind of get maybe on the high end, at least estimates for looking at doing. I mean, a lot of times you're going to get it for lower if you're flipping the house, though, or you're going to try pretty hard.
Right. You're going to try to get the numbers down. But it gives people, it's so scary to people. Like, they'll say, I don't know if the furnace needs to be replaced. Well, you know, my tip is look at see if there's a green sticker on it and look at the age of it. If you're going to sell a house retail, nobody wants a furnace 15, 20 years old. You're just going to have to suck it up and go. You don't have to be a genius. You have to be able to read and look for those stickers. And, you know, panel boxes, if they're really little, you're going to need a new one. If it has fuses, you're going to need a new one. So there are some things that help people, I think, with rehab estimates and knowing what to replace, because that's another whole topic. When do you replace something? Okay, what's your thing on furnaces? Do you have a date if it's over X number of years?
You know, in our market, I don't think it matters so much. Now, as things switch over and we, you know, kind of balance out a little bit, it's going to matter more. Now, if it works, I have it serviced and I'll keep it in the house. I don't really replace them. Now, if it's really ancient, like original with the house or something like that, I will go ahead and replace it. But 15 years old or something like that, I would keep that in the house.
See, that's a big difference here. The home inspector will point out, because everybody has a home inspection, and they'll point out that the furnace is 15, 17 years old. And just so you know, the life expectancy of a gas forced air furnace is 20 years old. And the buyers go, nope, I want a new furnace. So,
yeah, and in that case, we do offer, you know, sometimes the home warranty, especially if we don't replace the furnace and hot water heater when we go to sell. But yeah, in slower markets, though, you definitely would want to replace them. Yeah. It's just our market. People will buy.
It's so crazy you don't have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And things do change in the seller's market for sure. Have you ever gotten estimates really wrong? Have you ever really flubbed those up?
Well, luckily, no. I mean, of course, I've been off on every deal. I'm off on something. Yeah. But I generally will have my contractor go through before closing, so I know if I'm way off on my numbers before the house. But I'm pretty good now. It's you get used to it once you've done one or two. You know, a roof this size is probably going to be $6-7 grand. You know, pretty good with ballparking the numbers. But where I've run into trouble is, you know, unexpected repairs that you just couldn't see it for whatever. And but as far as the estimating of repairs, I've been pretty lucky there.
I do think it's easier now because you can call and you can call a heating guy and say, I have a 1,500 square foot ranch with a basement. You know, how much is it going to cost? Or a 2-story, 2,000. They can tell you very closely how much it's, and they'll say, what level do you want? Do you want the super expensive high efficiency, or no, well, I want regular but good quality? Or in your case, you might say high efficiency. I don't know if you're in a really cold area. But now here, we always would have something, we called it a fudge fund. It was always a percentage of the rehab for what ifs. Do you do that?
I do. I keep back about 10%.
Yeah, that's about standard.
add 10% to the
Yeah,
total.
add 10%. Now, if in the cases of when a couple times I did big old houses, I added more because I knew there was going to be more. But yeah, 10% was about what I added.
Mm-hmm. And I've always spent it. I've
I know.
the deal where I had that money left over. So
Mm-hmm.
I just don't look at it as an extra money. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you're most likely gonna spend
Yeah,
it.
there's always something. And my favorite thing to do is knocking out walls. But that is probably the thing you should never do unless there's really a good reason to do it, because unless your budget is big enough, you will find something back there you wish you hadn't have found.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you're pulling out drywall, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So where do you find contractors? This is a big one for people doing rehabs. Where did you start before you knew how to find contractors? How did you find your contractors?
So I hadn't looked really for contractors ever until I needed them.
Mm-hmm.
So when we bought our very first house that was not really even an investment, the real estate agent that sold us the house, we got some contacts through them. Moving forward, once I started flipping houses, I was actually partnered up for that first deal. So
Mm-hmm.
she was the contractor, I brought the deal. So found,
Nice.
that way.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started doing it on my own, it was a contractor in the group that
Mm-hmm.
we were in that most people used, just a handful of contractors. A lot of times now up here, I will use Angie's List or, Yelp. Now that you have a lot of good review sites online,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit easier to weed some out, some contractors out. Ideally, though, the best way I think to find a contractor for a flip is through other investors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Now, do you have a contract with your contractor?
I have a contract on my side, and he also has one on his side. So
That's very smart.
me to sign, and I give one for him to sign.
Very smart, because before I knew to do that, I had a contractor run over 5 months one time.
Yes, I definitely have the
Mm-hmm.
time frame, and he always overestimates, and I'm okay with that. But there is a time frame in the contract. That's right. My number one reason to have one, because the carrying costs are so high.
So it'll suck up every bit of your profit if you're not careful.
Yep. And that's another good reason to have an experienced contractor that is used to doing flips, because it's different work than what most contractors normally do. It's a process, and can really get messed up if they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, if they don't understand the sequencing of things, that you do this and then you do this and then you do this, because it all has to be done in order. If you're taking out any drywall, you want to get your electrical and your plumbing in. You want to get all that done before you get to the painting stage. So it's important. The order of things is important in a rehab.
Yeah, right. And contractors that aren't familiar with that process, they may, have already installed the floors and then want to paint.
Yes.
So, it's a learning process on both sides. They can obviously learn your process, but it's a lot easier if you work with people that already have the process down.
I agree too, because you want them to do nice work, but not necessarily the work you would put in your own home, a fancy sunroom with crown molding, and it wouldn't necessarily be that level of work as what I call fine craftsmanship. You want good work, good quality work, but not necessarily the next step up.
Right. You're not upgrading it to the degree that you would your own personal house.
So I guess when it comes to selling your flip, do you list your own houses, I would assume?
I do. Yes. I'm the real estate agent for the business.
Right.
We list in the MLS.
Yeah. Okay. Do you ever offer incentives like I'll let the person that brings the buyer to me have the whole commission? Do you ever do that as an incentive? You probably don't have to do that in the seller's market, do you?
No, we really don't. I think, though, if I were to offer an incentive, I would offer it more to the buyer than I would buyer's agent, though. We always offer a co-op to the buyer's agent. But sometimes people think that you can offer, a higher co-op, and because of that, you should be able to sell your house for more.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really sell your house over market just because
No.
you pay the agent more. I think so. If I were going to offer something, I would offer it to the buyer, closing costs or something like that.
I think that's a good way to run your business.
Yeah, but we don't have to do that right now. I mean, the winter times are getting a little bit slower than what they have in the past, recent memory, but it's still a pretty hot market here. So
yeah, it was different in 2008, 2009. You had to get agents to show your house first. So there were all kinds of things going on. And buyers, you had to make sure there was a reason to buy your house rather than the one three doors down. So there were a lot more concessions made back then.
Yeah, we did back then. We would pay closing costs, and rehab was a little bit more for you tried to offer a better value for the money that the neighbor was providing, or other people in that price range were providing. But it's definitely not like that right now. I do think that at some point, we're going to end up back, the other way though. So
no doubt. We've already extended that cycle way past the normal time.
Yeah, I agree. We're due.
So do you do one flip at a time, or do you ever get to where you're doing multiple flips at a time?
I have done multiple flips at a time, but not to the degree where I was running 2 crews or anything like that. I had one on the market and bought another one. We're just at that point up here now. That was back early on, 2009, 2010. We're right at that point now to be able to do that again. Personally, though, I don't really foresee myself ever running 2 flips at a time. I'm looking for more of a low stress business model. So I'm more interested in, once I get the one on the market, I'd like to have my next one lined up. So we're kind of at that point right now. Here, especially in the springtime, I feel like is the stronger part of the cycle, in the year. So I think it's a good time to move forward with that.
So do you have a plan to scale? Is your plan to build a bigger business or more to build a lifestyle business?
Mine it's more of a lifestyle business. There was a point in time where it was, I want to be the person doing 200 flips a year and things like that. But it just, I don't foresee that creating the life that I really want. So I definitely more of a focus on lifestyle.
Well, that's an important distinction for anybody to make. I think if you're doing, first of all, I don't know why anybody would want to do 100, 200 houses. It's crazy tunes for me.
Yeah.
So, but it's not what I ever wanted to do. There's a thing, you can have a profitable business, a business that allows you to do what you want to do with your life, with your kids, or whatever your situation is, where you're happy. And some people thrive on this stress and the bigness of things, but that was never me. It was more about lifestyle for me.
Yeah, me too. Definitely.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, Jill. We'll kind of wrap up with this question. For anyone that's just getting started, what advice do you have for them? They're often terrified. They don't know where to start. They're just stuck.
Well, the only way to get unstuck is to do something. So the best thing you can do to get over that fear, unfortunately, is to do it anyway.
Like Nike says, feel the fear and do it anyway. Yeah.
Yep, just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah. But I think it's so important though to join the meetups, the association meetings, because just surrounded by other people doing it makes it less scary.
Find your tribe. Everybody needs
definitely.
a tribe. What's the best way for folks to get in touch with you if they have questions?
Well, they can find me on my website. It's jillbuyshousesfast.com, or they can give me a call at 303-395-0056, or text message, probably better, but at that same number.
Okay. Well, I am So happy you came on here today. I love hearing what I call stories from real people just doing this business. So thanks for coming on and taking your time because I know you're really busy.
Well, I had a great time, Sharon. I'm really excited to be here, and thanks for asking me on.
I'm glad to have you. Okay, guys, I think that's it for today. So thanks so much for coming out and for listening to the show. And if you love this show, please leave us a review and a rating over on iTunes. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.